All right, moving right along. This next segment, we're going to talk about something that we've talked about before, so this should be a good review, hopefully, for you guys. And that is setting keys and indexes. I still think it's indices. Indices? Indexes? Doesn't matter. So in our last segment, we looked at documenting our database design with our DBDL, right? Database design language. And we looked at how we can document and write out all of our tables and the keys associated with them. And one of the reasons why we want to do that is so that we can, look at that and very easily and visually see which field, which attribute we should index. And so remember, when we create an index, essentially all we're doing is just creating an alphabetical list of the data that's in that field, that's in that attribute, whichever one we create the index for. And so that's used to help us do our queries more efficiently and get the results faster. These databases that we're using for this course are fairly small, so it's not going to make that much of a difference. But in production, you could be dealing with some very large databases, and so you will most certainly want to use and create indexes to help with your queries and help them run much faster. So if that's what indexes are for, and they seem like a very good thing, and they are, why don't we just create an index for everything, right? Great question. Glad you asked. We don't want to do that simply because having and storing those indexes requires a lot of overhead and resources. And so, creating indexes for attributes that don't necessarily need them is just a waste of our resources. So we essentially only want to create them for fields that we commonly do sorting on. An example is a primary key, but those indexes are created automatically for us, right? But other fields where we do sorting on a regular basis, those are the fields that we will typically want to create an index for. That's why we write out those keys in that documentation, because that will help us kind of determine which fields that we're going to be using more frequently and sorting on more frequently so that we can create indexes for them. So here's just a screenshot, an example of a couple indexes on the professor table. So again, the primary key index is created automatically. So we'll see that there on the first one. But then we can see in the second line there, we have a second index that we've called professor name, and that's just a name that we've given it. But the field that index is running on is both the professor last name and the professor first name field. So going back to our last video, that is kind of essentially one of our secondary keys. Again, a secondary key being a field or combination of fields, like in this example, that may not be unique, but are commonly used for retrieval and thus should be indexed. And that's exactly what we're doing in this scenario here, right? Professor last name, professor first name, even together may not necessarily be unique, but they're common fields that we're gonna retrieve fairly frequently, so we're gonna create an index for them. And so you can kind of see this arrow down here pointing to the value of, no for the unique indicator right there, meaning that they don't have to be unique values. Because again, it's a rare chance, but there is a chance that we'll have a professor or multiple professors with the same first and last name. So that unique attribute is going to be set to no. But we're sorting it in ascending order on both the last name and the first name. Last name first, and then if there's duplicates on the last name, then the first name will be sorted alphabetically. But those are creating indexes. Again, we've done that before, but now we're kind of just tying everything all together here and tying it into the documentation that we saw previously. So good. I hope this was beneficial for you guys, and we'll see you next time.